In Lagos, trust is a luxury you can't afford. And Okonkwo, who rose from nothing in this concrete jungle, learned that too late. The woman he trusted most came like a river, come on the surface, until it dragged him under. And now, every step forward is a step deeper into a web he never saw coming. Okonkwo moved through the Lagos market, the air thick with the smell of roasted yams and the shouts of traders. His phone buzzed, another deal sealed. Success. Yet behind his smile, something prickled, an unnamed fear. He saw Ada once in the crowd, a stranger with a quiet grace, but he brushed it off. Little did he know, the trust he'd built would soon be his undoing. That evening, Ada stepped into his penthouse, a vision in a sleek red dress, her laugh like a soft bell. They talked for hours, and Okonkwo felt a weight lift from his chest. She asked nothing but gave him a sense of belonging. For once, he wasn't alone in this vast city. He let himself fall, unaware of the trap closing around him. The next morning, Okonkwo's business partner, Chike, called with panic in his voice. The investor pulled out of the deal, a leak sabotaged their growth. Okonkwo paced, his mind racing. He thought of Ada's late-night walks, of her secret meetings. Was she behind this? He couldn't be sure, but he knew something had shifted. And his word tittered. Later, Okonkwo strolled down a neon-lit boulevard, skyscrapers towering above. Street vendors hawked fashion and tech. He stopped for a snack, but a shadow passed, a man from his past, someone tied to old betrayals. His pulse quickened. Was this a coincidence, or was his past reaching for him again? That evening, Okonkwo trailed Ada to a sleek rooftop lounge above the city. Jazz floated in the air, the skyline burned with neon. He saw her laughing, but not alone. In the corner, a shadowed man, familiar, smiled at him. Okonkwo felt his world unravel. Okonkwo couldn't sleep. He kept replaying the night, Ada's laugh, that man's shadow. He sat by his balcony, city lights blinking like distant stars. His phone rang, check again. Another business partner was missing, and accounts drained. Okonkwo's throat went dry. What if Ada was just a pawn, or worse, a mastermind? He knew he had to confront her. The next morning, Okonkwo drove through the maze of Lagos traffic, honking taxis and motorbikes buzzing around him. He stopped at a sleek cafe by the river, where Ada sat waiting. Her eyes met his, calm but unreadable. He asked for the truth, his voice tense. Ada smiled softly. Some truths, she said, are buried deeper than you know. That night, Okonkwo sat in his office, poring over old contracts, trying to find a clue. The city outside was alive, but inside he felt cold. He remembered his father's words, never let loyalty blind you. The phone buzzed again. An unknown number. His heartbeat raced as he answered, unsure who was pulling the strings. Okonkwo met Chike by the riverbank, the water dark and restless under the city lights. Chike handed him a thumb drive, his face grim. This is everything, Chike whispered. Okonkwo opened it later, watching in horror as Ada's meetings were recorded. She was colluding with his oldest enemy. Betrayal sank deep in his chest. That night, Okonkwo returned to his apartment, every step heavier than the last. He stared at the city skyline, so beautiful, so cruel. He dialed Chike, his voice steady but tight. We go after them tomorrow, he said. The next step would either save his life or bury him in shadows, but Okonkwo was no longer afraid of the truth. Okonkwo and Chike arranged a meeting at a modern glass tower downtown, a symbol of wealth they once dreamed of. Okonkwo arrived early, watching the city wake up beneath him. He wasn't just fighting for a business now, he was fighting for his life. Every minute, the stakes grew. At dusk, Okonkwo drove to a rooftop parking lot, the city humming like a beast below. Ada's car glided in, sleek as ever. Okonkwo waited until she stepped out, her face unreadable. He approached, every muscle tense. "Tell me the truth, Ada," he demanded, and for the first time, she hesitated. The next morning, Okonkwo traced the shadowed man from the parking lot. His name was Emeka, a rival contractor from the past. Okonkwo followed him through traffic, adrenaline pounding. They reached a high-rise site, cement dust rising like a ghost. Emeka turned, a smirk on his lips. "You should have stayed out of this." At midnight, Okonkwo met Chek by the old railway station, a forgotten relic in the city's heart. Chek handed him a document, an anonymous tip about a shell company. "This might be the final piece," Chek whispered. Okonkwo clenched his fist. Tomorrow, he would confront Ada, no more lies. As dawn broke, Okonkwo stood by the river, its currents restless like his thoughts. He called Ada one last time. "Meet me where it began," he said. At the old bridge, they would face what was hidden, whether love, betrayal, or the end of both. Okonkwo arrived at the bridge just as the first rays touched the river. Ada stood on the edge, her silhouette fragile against the morning mist. Okonkwo's voice broke as he stepped closer. "Why did you betray me?" Ada's eyes filled with tears, but her answer was slow. "I was trapped, Okonkwo. I never wanted this." They sat by the river, the water carrying the past like a whisper. Okonkwo's anger simmered beneath the surface, but so did his old love. Ada explained how her family was bound by a blood debt, a curse tied to her birth. Okonkwo felt the city close in. That afternoon, Okonkwo confronted Emeka in a downtown skyscraper. "You used her," Okonkwo spat, voice sharp. Emeka shrugged. "She was just a key. You were always the target." Okonkwo realized it was never just Ada, it was his empire they wanted. His mind spun. That evening, he met Chek at the harbor, the water churning like his thoughts. They decided to expose everything, the shell company, the collusion, the lies. As night fell, they sent anonymous evidence to the press. The city began to shift. By morning, the story broke, a web of corruption spun around Lagos. Okonkwo sat alone by the river, the tide pulling secrets away. Ada disappeared like a ripple, and Okonkwo, for the first time, felt the city give him a second chance. The next day, the news rippled through Lagos like a storm. Okonkwo's name appeared on every headline, but so did the truth, how he fought back against corruption. Business partners reached out with apologies, even old rivals called. Okonkwo stood tall, but his heart felt lighter, uncertain still. At dusk, Okonkwo returned to the old bridge, the place of final confrontations. Ada wasn't there, but a single rose lay by the rail. He touched it, remembering how fragile trust was. The city moved on, but he knew he couldn't. Okonkwo took a new risk, building a community program for young entrepreneurs in Lagos, teaching them business ethics and resilience. Each evening, he stood in front of a small crowd, his voice steady, his vision clear. Ada was gone, but his purpose grew. Months passed, and Lagos buzzed with new hope. Okonkwo's program thrived, young people saw a way forward. But in his quiet moments, Okonkwo still heard the city's hum, still saw Ada in the shadows, wondering if their paths would ever cross again. On a rainy evening, Okonkwo walked by the river, a sudden chill in the air. A car pulled up, and there was Ada, older, different, but still familiar. She stepped out, and for a moment, the river held its breath, like it remembered too. Okonkwo smiled, uncertain but ready for whatever came next. Ada stood in the drizzle, the city skyline behind her, and Okonkwo walked slowly toward her. No words came at first, just the rain tapping on concrete. Then she spoke, soft but steady. "I went away to break the curse, Okonkwo. I couldn't bear it anymore." He didn't know if trust would return, but he knew something had changed. The next day, Okonkwo walked through his community program. The young entrepreneurs gathered around him. He told them his story, not the glamorous success, but the fall, the betrayal, and the rise again. They listened, wide-eyed, learning that every failure was just a hidden step toward redemption. A few weeks later, a journalist interviewed Okonkwo by the river, capturing his quiet strength as he spoke of second chances. Lagos was still wild, but now there was a pulse of hope. Okonkwo smiled faintly, knowing he didn't erase the past, he only chose a different future. Ada never returned, but Okonkwo kept her rose in a small glass frame by his desk. Every morning, he saw it and remembered that trust was fragile, but it could still grow again. Lagos moved fast, but he walked slowly, carrying his lessons forward. Years later, Okonkwo stood once more by the river, now a mentor to many. His past no longer chained him, it whispered lessons in every wave. As the sun set over Lagos, Okonkwo knew that even broken trust, rebuilt, could still change a city.